All right, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of the Teardown. My name is Jeff Gluck, and along with my coworker Jordan Bianchi, we are motorsports writers for The Athletic, and we are doing a podcast that we absolutely 100% did not expect to be doing today. It is Saturday night in Los Angeles, California. Not raining at the moment. We've just watched Daniel Suarez. He's just won the NASCAR Mexico Series race at the end of a long and chaotic, surprising day. Jordan's right next to me, but we're for those of you watching, we're talking on different laptops here to make it easier to look at. But Jordan, what a whirlwind of a day! This is very surreal that we are doing this podcast right now.
Yeah, I mean, when you woke up today, did you think the Clash was going to happen Saturday night?
I mean, obviously not. I didn't even think that was possible at
I didn't.
What'd you say?
I didn't.
You did not. Yeah. Well, yeah. Who would have? I mean, we, the garage opened at what 9 o'clock this morning, and you're talking to everybody in the garage, right? And everybody's going, man, I sure wish they could run this race tonight. Yeah. Dang, like we're going to be stuck here. There's no way they're racing Sunday. They're expecting what the National Weather Service is calling life-threatening flooding.
Yeah.
It's not just some sort of like rainstorm or some cold front coming through. This is severe stuff, and it's not just going to be Sunday. It sounds like it's going to be all through Monday, possibly Tuesday, and this is a racetrack that needs to be torn up. First of all, they need to be out of here at some point. The haulers in the parking lot, this is not their parking lot. They need to vacate that. They need to get the teams back to North Carolina. There's all sorts of reasons why this race may not have happened if it didn't happen tonight. But still, you think there's no way that it could actually get in tonight because that's unprecedented, completely unprecedented. This never happened where they've said, all right, the weather's going to be really bad. Let's move it up an entire day. Never, right?
No, I mean, not in recent recollections. I mean, maybe it's happened in past we don't know about. But there was a lot of moving parts to this. And at the end of the day, this was the absolute right decision. There was no other race. There was no other choice. Either you race tonight or you very likely do not race at all. Because holding off until what would have been probably Wednesday, best case scenario, what was just not feasible for a lot of different reasons you talked about. And so credit to NASCAR, credit to Fox Sports. There's a lot of moving parts. A lot of people came together on this. And very rarely does NASCAR make a decision. Very rarely in NASCAR does everybody agree on something. But universally, and I always say that confidently, universally, whether it's the garage, whether it's NASCAR, or whomever, they all said the same thing. This was the right thing to do. And they did it. They executed it. They got a race in. They got an entertaining race in. It wasn't what anybody wanted, but it's still better than the alternative. And kudos to them for making it happen.
I don't know what the right terminology is for this. Somebody had mentioned earlier today that it might be Sophie's choice, where
wow,
not in the term of which kid do you pick to die.
All of them.
That's a little overdramatic, but essentially, there's no good solution, right? A Sophie's choice term is there's no good solution, and that was the case here, right? Because essentially, if you have this race tonight, there's people that had bought tickets for the Clash that were going to come in Sunday. There's people from flying across the country that had hotels, airline reservations, all this stuff, right? And they're all going to be losers, right? Because if they weren't able to make it out tonight for this free event, it was going to be they're going to eat the tickets. And obviously it sounds like NASCAR is going to try to reach out to every fan, try to make it right, all this stuff, and that's great, but people still, I mean, this is not what people planned. I mean, there was Machine Gun Kelly fans, as we know, that were coming just for this race. I mean, maybe not a ton, but there were some that were flying just to see him do his 4-song set that never happened, right? So things like that. But also part of that is NASCAR's part. Like, they are losing several $1 million in ticket sales alone. That is what is going to cost NASCAR to refund people's tickets. They are losing a huge primetime TV window on Fox, Big Fox, that was going to be on Sunday night.
Which was supposed to be a natural lead-in for the Daytona 500 as well.
Yes, a natural lead-in to the Daytona 500, build that hype. Instead, they do a last-minute, no promotion, spur-of-the-moment thing.
On cable TV.
Yeah, 4.5 hours notice on cable on FS1. It's not good for anybody, right? But again, when you look at it and the alternative is this race may not happen at all, period, this was by far the logical choice. This was the common sense choice. So that's why, I see people on Twitter, they're like, well, of course the drivers and the teams are applauding because they didn't want to wait till Wednesday. They want to go home.
It's not that simple though. Like you may not have a track to race on if you wait until Wednesday. This track was, the schedule was that this track was to be teared up on Wednesday. The catch fence and the safer barriers are to come down immediately after the race is over. We'll start seeing that here very shortly. Here, on Wednesday, they're coming in here and ripping this track up. So you do not have necessarily a track to race on. It's not that complicated. And not to mention the fact, even if the weather is perfect on Wednesday, even if you have a track to race on Wednesday, if there are conditions in the Los Angeles area that are as advertised, life-threatening, catastrophic, there's floods, there's mudslides, there's whatnot, you may not have emergency service vehicles allowed to be here because they may be repurposed elsewhere in the area. You cannot have a race without emergency vehicles on the racetrack, ambulances, fire trucks, that kind of thing. So there's all of these different factors involved, and you look at that, they don't have a choice. You could maybe wait until Wednesday, but there are no guarantees you get that race in because of outside external factors that are outside of your control. However, if you move it up a day early, yeah, you're going to take a hit, but you can get that race in, and that's what you need to do because rescheduling it for down the road, weeks down the road, months down the road, that also is not on the table.
I just think, when you think about all the things that go into it, right? Like some teams are just getting, the Fords and Toyotas have new parts, new cars. And so they're getting new parts for Daytona. They need to get back and be able to put those cars together. The haulers need to get back, the TV compound, the NASCAR, all the official stuff. You were going to start impacting that schedule for an unknown amount of time, again, if it gets in at all. So it just, when you look at everything, this was the right call. And what's amazing about this is this doesn't happen without, you always hear the term kind of overused in NASCAR, oh, the collaboration in the industry, all this stuff. And your eyes can kind of glaze over. Okay, yeah, collaboration, great. But this is truly it, right? Like, because NASCAR had to make a call to Fox Sports and say, hey, you guys have a spot for us on Saturday night? As it turned out, they did, and the reason was because they were supposed to run the heats, right?
Yep.
So there was already a time slot built in where they could do that. Fox was willing to do that. If Fox says, hey, sorry, you know what, we're going to keep it the same, or we can't move this, whatever.
We can't make this work.
Right. Then I don't know about you, but I don't think this happens.
I mean, from the conversations we've had today with people, that is the case. Like, that is literally like, if Fox Sports would have said, we can't do this at any point, NASCAR would have been in a box of, well, we can't race Saturday. We're going to have to go forward and either try to race on Wednesday, which again, going to be really challenging, or this event is off, one of the two. Like, it's either that. And they made the right decision. I haven't heard any backlash from anybody, and there's a lot of cynical people in this sport. There are a lot of people who will take any shot they can at NASCAR whenever they can. Any decision NASCAR makes is usually perceived to be the wrong one by some individuals. I've heard no negative at all from anybody.
It's so interesting because this is likely, it seems like it's going to be the end of the Clash's 3-year run here in Los Angeles. And the vibe in this exact same room that I'm sitting in, where I recorded the podcast 2 years ago here, it is the same, but for completely different reasons. The first Clash, the vibe was like unanimously like, wow, I can't believe they did this. They pulled this off. This was a success. Everybody, for the reasons you're saying, it's so rare for everybody to be on the same page. That first Clash, all the drivers, the teams, everybody was like, this was a smash. This was huge success, right? And today you leave with some of the same vibes just because they got the race in. Everybody's like, this was the right move, the right thing to do. Everybody's applauding them. The Grammys are in town here tomorrow night, and hotels are very expensive around the whole city. This is not just like, okay, we're in Pocono or something, right? And let's extend our hotels for one more day for the teams. I mean, this would have cost the teams tens of thousands of dollars each, right, to extend all their hotels and again for days. obviously you get the point, but I just don't think that there's any downside to what they did aside from, there was going to be no winners anyway. Like I get that the fans are bummed that wanted to come tomorrow or whatever, but there wasn't going to be a race tomorrow. So if you accept that and you just say, look, these are your alternatives. Again, the Sophie's Choice thing kind of comes into play where you're just like, this was the lesser of two evils, and this is what they had to do to get it in, and they did.
They did. And again, I cannot state this enough. It was the only option. Like, if you're going to have this race, if this race is to happen, the only option you have is to run it tonight. Because you're running tomorrow, you look at the forecast, it's awful. And Monday and Tuesday aren't much better. And Wednesday, you're going to run all of the issues we laid out. And it's a tough decision. And I feel very bad for fans, because there are fans that, believe it or not, I know that we've heard a lot of talk about the attendance of this race and whether it was where it needed to be or what. There were fans coming in for this race that flew in for this race, and they probably didn't get an opportunity to attend it, and they're going to be out money. They're going to get their refunds back for their tickets and everything, but it doesn't cover hotels or flights or anything like that. That sucks. But again, there's not much you can do. And you've got to get this race in. You've got to figure out a way to get this race in. And this was the only path to do so. It was a lot of moving parts. Give NASCAR a lot of credit. They had these conversations they kind of started last night a little bit. They were monitoring the weather. They wanted to see if, sometimes, I know this can be shocking to people, other people aren't always right. And sometimes the forecast kind of, we've seen it happen many times where the forecast isn't what it's supposed to be. But in this case, it seems like it's going to be. They waited. The conversations really intensified Saturday morning. And at that point, it was like, we need to move on this. And very quickly, they put things together and made it happen.
All right. And for those of you watching the live stream, sorry about the echo. This is our first time doing it like this, this method, and we're in the same room sitting right next to each other. So maybe that was a big mistake, but sorry. We're trying to fix it now. So hopefully this helps. We're trying to mute each other as we go. I'd like to mute Jordan all the time personally, but
that's very mean.
That's how it is.
Wow, hurtful.
Anyway, so the race took place, and one of the big criticisms was, I can't believe there's nobody there. The place is empty. Man, all these, this is a free day. Remember the whole controversy that this wasn't even going to be open in the first place. And then good thing they made it into a free day and people were going to come anyway, because then you would have really had nobody. But I actually think, and boy, people are going to call me a homer for this one.
Because everybody always calls you a NASCAR homer. That's what we say about Jeff Gluck, NASCAR homer.
He's being sarcastic. Anyway, listen, I thought this was about the crowd I expected. I think there was probably, by the end of it, there was maybe about 5,000 people. Now, is that great for a huge stadium like this? No. But again, it was 4.5 hours notice. It was supposed to be just heat races. And for sure at the start, you're like, whoa, where is everybody? This is bad. I really think it kind of filled in. The drivers afterwards were like, this was great. This was a diverse crowd. This was a young crowd. And again, that's what this event was supposed to do. This was never supposed to be for the hardcore fans. If the hardcore fans want to come, great. But I think that it actually turned out okay for a race that was on zero notice, essentially, for people to come down. I don't know. Again, was the crowd great? No, it wasn't great. But I think it was fine for what it was. There was a few thousand people here. There wasn't supposed to be a race today,
It is what it is. And I say this all the time, and it's true. TV trumps everything. And that this race happened and it was able to televise on cable, at least, matters more than what it matters how many people you bring through the turnstile. It's unfortunate, but that's the reality of it. That you were able to get here as many people as they did, that's a good thing. I was surprised by the number. It was a little higher than I thought it would be as you kind of took it in, because you're watching it and you and I were kind of talking as the race goes on. Like, I don't know. We're not good. I'm not good at estimating. And then you're kind of pointing it out. Like, oh, there's more people over here. There's more people over there. And all things considered, it's hard to complain.
I think that the one thing that you could have said, and I think would be a fair criticism, is if you looked at the forecast and you knew this was a possibility, then could they not have decided this yesterday? If they were willing to make this call, could they not have decided this yesterday and said, wow, this could be our contingency plan, and then, they announce it last night, Friday night or early this morning instead of around lunchtime. But I also think that part of this decision was, can we pull this off? I mean, is this even possible? Can we even think about doing this? I mean, the losing all the money to refund all the tickets, to have Fox. I talked to a Fox executive today, and he said, the conversations for on the Fox side to call their partners and the other leagues they're obligated to and things like that, it took about 2 hours from the Fox side, and then to get back to NASCAR with an answer. So there's a lot of I just think it's massively more complicated than we probably even realize. Myself included. I'm not just saying, the fans don't know. I don't know. I don't know what all goes into moving a program up an entire day, taking it off Fox, talking to other leagues, and then going, I think there's a lot that goes into it, and then let alone the attendance. Obviously, the security issues, the personnel at the Coliseum, that is something that was such a big deal that they weren't even going to open this on that Saturday. So that is an expense. The Coliseum, they made it very clear that they're guests here, and they don't want the Coliseum to have a black eye because that would, they're trying to make it not look bad on them. So there's so many things that go into it. Of course, you would have liked to see them decide this much earlier. I think given that this was a completely unprecedented thing, that is something that, okay, for the future, maybe, but I don't know. I don't even know if this happens again because let's say this happens at Michigan, right? Oh, there's a storm coming. I don't know that they move it up an entire day. Maybe, does this set a new precedent? I don't think so. I think part of this decision, Jordan, weigh in on this, was that this track had to be torn up. I mean, this was their guess here. They had to get out.
That's a large part of it. And a couple things there to go back to. I talked to somebody who's involved kind of in this decision-making and everything. And part of it, as I mentioned, as the weather report was let's see if this actually holds. Let's see if this is going to get worse. Let's see on Saturday morning if this is what we think it may be, or this is going to be something that kind of, blows past. And when it became obvious that it wasn't, which was last night into this morning, that was kind of when these talks happened. So that's part of it. Yeah, I mean, could you have made this decision earlier in the week? Sure. But I also mentioned to somebody, my colleague, earlier in the week, hey, Jeff, did you see the weather forecast for LA? And you basically mock and ridiculed me and said, they got what? You literally said, they got wet weather tires, and made me feel like an idiot. And I was like, okay, yeah, but this is not just like rain. This is like more than rain. And so you could say like, yeah, but some people, thought maybe that this wasn't a big deal because, again, short track and you've got rain weather tires, but it did become a big deal. And could they have said this Thursday? Yeah, but I do think there's something to be said for the fact that this is LA, weather changes here, and when it realized it was going to hold, and it was what it is, they didn't want to wake up on Sunday morning and have great weather and like, oh shoot, we should have ran it. So I get it. I understand it. Yeah, in a perfect world, hindsight 2020, you would have made this decision Tuesday or Wednesday, but this is what it is.
To my defense, I did not realize that they were not going to bring the windshield wipers or the rain package with the flaps anymore. I did not realize that NASCAR had seemingly suddenly given up on that after it seemed like there's all these years of development going into can we race on a wet track? North Wilkesboro seemed to be enough of a success, with the wet weather tires, not the rain tires, but to race in wet conditions. And then suddenly, I think it was a Bob tweet. He's like, oh yeah, they're not bringing the windshield wipers and the flaps anymore. And I was asking some drivers.
And nowhere in here is there an apology to me.
No, I'm not going to apologize for this.
Of course not. Why would you?
I asked some drivers today during our media availabilities. So, when we didn't think it was going to be a race tonight, we thought it was going to be, the story was going to be multiple days of rainouts. Why wouldn't they? Does anybody understand why they wouldn't bring the wet weather package or they don't bring windshield wipers anymore? And I got a lot of shrugs. And then I can't remember who said it. maybe Logano or I can't remember. Sorry. Somebody said basically like, yeah, I think they kind of figured out like the windshield wipers don't really work on stock cars, and that's just probably you're probably not going to see that again. It started becoming aero advantage. It looks silly in the dry weather. It wasn't effective enough, and so I guess that's they can still race in the damp and spray some Rain-X on their windshields, I guess. But yes, and also the other part of it, Jordan, of me discounting the weather, because since you brought this up, is I'm trying not to worry about the weather. I'm trying not to worry about things that I cannot control as much anymore. It's one of my New Year's resolutions. And
it's my philosophy.
Kevin Harvick the other day told me, I was doing an interview about his career as a broadcaster, and he's, hey, how you doing? I said, well, I'd be a lot better if the weather wasn't looking like this. And he said, don't worry about it. You can't control that. And I'm like, you're right, Kevin Harvick. You're right. So I felt justified.
I literally have been giving you that advice for years. Worry about what you can control. Stop worrying about all the minutia and the things that are out of your control. And it took Kevin Harvick to like break through and have this like, oh my God, epiphany.
You just told me that I should be worried about the wet weather tires, or the rain that you were worried about. So now you're reversing course here. Anyway, I'm just going to stand up in my defense here, because sometimes I'll apologize for being wrong, but not in this case. Why do you think that they are done with the rain package experiment in general?
I mean, it was a lot of complications. It wasn't rain. It was a very, very light rain. It couldn't be harder than like a mist. The track couldn't be too wet. There's a lot of complications. We saw in the Truck Series race last year, like Martinsville had some issues on pit road with, excessive water. So you had long excessive cautions to get that cleaned up. And then you had every pit. It ruins the flow of the race.
Laps were definitely catching on fire.
Yeah. Well, you had that as well. It was not seamless. It brought complications into it. It wasn't like in IndyCar. I mean, it wasn't like an IndyCar sports car race. It's like, okay, boom, like almost like you seem like you flip a switch and it's like, boom, we're racing in the wet. No big deal. It's like, it was a process, and it's not easy. And you're right. And I think there's something to be said for the windshield wipers look stupid. Like you go to the road courses and it's Sonoma and it's 80 degrees and sunny, and these guys are running the windshield wipers at 45-degree angle for an aero advantage. Like it's like, what is going on here? Like, I mean,
but couldn't you put them on if the forecast
But again, you're right though. But like, you don't know the forecast though, because if it doesn't rain, then you don't need them. And so like you run a race, or what happens if a rain shower pops up? But like we've seen that before, where it looks nice and something all of a sudden, oh, it's raining all of a sudden. So like, how do you plan for that? And so it's like you almost have to be all in or not. If you're going to do it, you got to do it, and you can't half-ass it. And that's kind of where they're at. And again, this is all kind of developing, but it seems like they're going to continue to use these tires on short, flat ovals, small ovals when they can, but on bigger tracks or when it's raining too much, it has proven that there needs to be going more into it.
Well, we're going to talk about the race itself. We should probably do that at this point, after we've been talking to you guys for over 20 minutes now. But first, I'm going to do my first ever live ad read. Would you like to hear me do that, Jordan?
Yes, please. I've heard you do ad reads before. You're very good.
But live, because typically, before we came over here to Dirty Mo Media, we had a system where we would record the ad reads and put them in later. So I could mess up multiple times, edit my mess ups, and then, magically drop it in there in like the little ad slot. But now I'm going to just do it live, because this is an advertisement for our workplace, The Athletic.
You are a radio podcast professional.
Okay, well, here we go. Okay, friends, let's take a quick break here to talk.
Please don't. Just start over.
Don't crack me up. Let's take a quick break to talk about all the things we're doing with NASCAR coverage over The Athletic. If you're a regular listener, you've heard us talking about our stories at The Athletic, and now with the NASCAR season starting, it's a great time to become a subscriber, please. At The Athletic, we're not just reporting the news, we're diving deep into the heart of the NASCAR Cup Series, bringing you a front row to all the action. See, I already messed up.
You're talking really fast, by the way.
Oh, well, I was just doing
it's like fast forward.
Okay. From Jordan's latest Bianchi bombs to my weekly columns, 12 questions, interviews, and captivating feature stories, We've got racing coverage at full speed from February to November. Right now, we are gearing up for the Daytona 500, and you won't want to miss a moment. So whether you're a diehard fan or just getting into the sport, The Athletic delivers the news, opinions, and analysis that keeps you in the winner's circle. So mash the gas and join us as we navigate the twists and turns of the NASCAR season. Don't miss out on any of our coverage this year. Head over to The Athletic and subscribe today. You can do that at, get this. Oh, this is breaking news for those who are subscribers. I haven't even tweeted about this yet. We now finally have our own NASCAR section on The Athletic. We've been motorsports under the motorsports tab. Now there is actually a NASCAR tab. So you can go over there. I don't know if you go over to theathletic.com/NASCAR. I haven't even tried that yet. Maybe just go to theathletic.com/motorsports and then find the NASCAR coverage, because I don't know if it's good enough yet, and I didn't research it before I just did that ad read. So I wrote that ad read. What did you think of that? Was that good?
Very well written. Very well written. Kudos to that. 10 out of 10. The execution,
I'll get better.
6 out of 10. Room for improvement. Would recommend.
Okay. Well, we're very happy to be on Dirty Mo, but one thing before we do talk about the racing action, I got a lot of comments from the Athletic subscribers. This is the housekeeping section of the podcast. So it used to be that this podcast was on everybody's feed, right? Like Apple Podcasts or Spotify, whatever. And then there was also an ad-free version on The Athletic for the people that didn't want to listen to the ads. But part of moving over to Dirty Mo is that does not exist anymore. People, for some reason, thought that would. They were disappointed. But listen, the trade-off is those of you who listen to the 12 Questions interviews, those are now moving exclusively behind the paywall when I start those this year, because those are not part of the Dirty Mo umbrella. Those are part of The Athletic, them sending me to the races to do the interviews and stuff like that. So I hope our subscribers won't be too mad about losing the ad-free thing, because they're getting the 12 questions by themselves. Of course, I'd love for you to subscribe if you don't, so you can hear all those. That's the housekeeping. Are you ready to talk about the race?
Let's do it. I got notes.
You have notes. Well, can you please start us off then?
Do you want to start in qualifying, or you want to start with the race itself?
You have the notes. I don't have the notes.
I mean, literally the first thing I have in here is qualifying. And it was great to see a qualifying session in NASCAR with stakes. You and I talked before about how, it'd be kind of cool to incorporate heat races into things and have drivers, make it worth something. And it's no guarantee you're going to start in the main event. And I campaigned last year, hey, this could be a points race. There's a way to do this. It was really fascinating. And fascinating to watch qualifying unfold and sit there and go, oh man, who's going to make the race? Who's not going to make the race? Oh my goodness. There was a time you and I were talking man, is Martin Truex Jr., the regular season champion, going to miss the race? And then it was whoa, Christopher Bell may miss the race. He did. Chris Buescher may miss the race. He did. And then it was whoa, Ryan Blaney's in trouble. He got the provisional. It was really interesting to watch qualifying and see some big names in trouble. And whoa, there is no guarantee that you're going to be racing the main event. It kind of reminded me almost like watching a World of All Out race, right? Where guys you're not assured of getting in the main event. You kind of got to work your way there. It was fun. It really was. For a Saturday night race, it was kind of old school.
I mean, for us who don't have any stake in this, right? It's,
oh yeah. I mean, for the teams, it sucks. Don't get me wrong. It sucks for them and they don't want it. I don't blame them. But for us, it was great. For the fans, I don't think you can complain. It was entertaining.
I love it. I want to see people go home. I want there to be eliminations and stakes. I mean, it's not like these people's seasons are over or something. And even if it was a points race, it wouldn't mean their season's over.
No, you give them points. You give them 24th points.
I totally agree with you. And it makes it super compelling. I mean, you're just by the time it got to that third practice session, the one that mattered and counted for qualifying, you were on the edge of your seat. You're just ooh. And then you're watching the timing chart. You're oh, this guy's falling down. And then like Josh Williams, for example, it looked like after the first heat, he finished second. So you're man, is he going to race his way in? And then he's sliding down as more and more groups go. And he almost made it. He missed it by one spot, but it was very compelling. And then, for Bell to miss it, for Suarez to miss it, it's all part of the story, right? And here's the thing, for the Clash 2 being an exhibition, I looked at some research this week. I mean, obviously you guys probably know both RFK cars had never made it until Keselowski made it tonight. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. last year, misses the Clash, then wins the Daytona 500, makes the playoffs, and was in the top 16 for most of the regular season. So it's not like, this is a bad sign or the end of things. It's just, it's an exhibition. They missed it, but I thought it was great. It was really fun.
Next on my list, I thought this was really good racing tonight. I don't think it was necessarily great. It was competitive. You saw guys make moves. Martin Truex Jr., Ryan Blaney came from the back. You saw passing. There was having to work traffic and manage that. When guys get into traffic, you saw the gaps close down. Yeah, at times Ty Gibbs ran away, twice from the field, but Logano both times did run him down. I thought this was a really good race. It was physical. It was hard racing. It wasn't dirty. It wasn't cheap shots. You didn't have the excessive number of cautions that plagued last year's race. Part of that too is you had fewer cars on the racetrack, which I think helps. Listen, this is not the short track package you're going to see. Other anything else, you probably could have a softer tire compound tonight. It was really hard to quibble with the on-track action that transpired.
I mean, I don't think it was like the greatest race ever, but I thought it was a good show. It was enough of, it was fine.
Yes, I thought the racing was good tonight. Another thing that stood out to me as we talk about this was Ty Gibbs. Really impressive performance for him. Qualified well, ran well. 2 times tonight he took the lead, ran away from everybody, managed traffic very, very well. Yes, he lost the restart. Lost the lead on a late restart. He even said himself he needed a better restart. Needs to get better at that to improve. You know what? That's a young driver. That's a second-year driver still learning, still figuring this out. But really impressive performance and didn't lose his head. And in a situation where it was really intense, people were going crazy out there a little bit, and bumpers were people were using their bumpers. He didn't overdrive. He didn't make mistakes. He was smart about it. I know he and Logano had a little bit of a tussle, and we're going to get into that. They exchanged some words in the garage, but really an overall good night for Ty Gibbs, even though it didn't end how he wanted to because he ended up spinning out in turn 4. Hey, and guess who's back? See, I timed that perfectly because I'm a professional.
I think that, I beat Jordan to the track today, probably by 30 minutes or something.
I had to take a field trip this morning.
I'm guessing that because I have been on the Coliseum's Wi-Fi for so long, actually over 12 hours. That's it. 12 hours, it kicked me off the Wi-Fi. So I bet that in a few minutes, or in 30 minutes if we're still on, I bet Jordan's Wi-Fi is also going to go out. There must be a 12-hour limit for the Coliseum Wi-Fi.
I got here.
They want us to leave.
Literally got here at 8:58, but I didn't sign into the Wi-Fi on my computer until, it was after we started. When we started writing the story that the announcement was coming. So we're good here on that.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to let everybody know that I was here first.
I had a field trip to make. I'm sorry.
What was your field trip that was so important?
Okay, so there is a TV show from the 1970s called Emergency, which is very geeky, and I know. But my grandfather was big into that show. I was big into that show growing up, and it was based here in LA. And so myself and a friend of mine in the industry went and visited the firehouse where they used to film at. It's still standing. It's still in use, Station 127, and it hasn't changed at all from when they filmed there in the 70s. It looks the exact same inside and outside. So we stopped over there for like 15 minutes, and we completely nerded out.
Okay. Well, I'm really sad that I had to sacrifice my Wi-Fi connection for your firehouse visit while you are unaffected by that, but that's just great. I hope the people are still with us and haven't left. Sorry for this. Anyway, by the way, this is going to be a fun theme all season long at various racetracks because, not all the racetracks, even though it's 2024, have great Wi-Fi. What are we thinking? We're going to have problems. We're going to have a problem with Darlington this year.
Yeah, Darlington.
Darlington.
Gateway. Oh, Gateway.
Gateway.
Yeah.
Las Vegas, I feel like, has been up and down sometimes, even Las Vegas, right? Anyway, because we are now doing these live streams by joining Dirty Mo, by the way, for those of you listening, check out our live stream. We're going to be doing this live after every race, we think, unless it's so terrible that we just can't have our internet stay.
You got to pick up your performance.
Well, it wasn't me. I've been here for 12 hours. It's the Coliseum. They're sending a message. Anyway, yes, this is going to be part of our shtick. This is part of our show that we're coming to you from random places inside random tracks. The Wi-Fi is not always going to be great. This is what happens when you're going live, baby, after the race. I didn't get to weigh in on Ty Gibbs though. So do you mind if I do that real quick? Oh, thank you. Okay, so listen, I thought on the last episode of this podcast, we did a team by team preview. We both said Ty Gibbs is going to make the playoffs this year, and I think he's going to win a race. This was just more evidence of that tonight. Now, does he have it all together yet? No. He's not the complete package, but he's very young and he's extremely talented and way, way, way ahead of the game. Now, I know a lot of fans are not high on Ty Gibbs, and they're not going to be rooting for him, but he is coming whether you like it or not. He is going to be a force. He's going to be a factor. And he, as Denny Hamlin said after the race tonight, he is somebody we're going to be talking about for 20 years. So he's always going to have a good ride. He's already extremely talented. If you're sick of Ty Gibbs already, boy, are you in for a long journey, because he's going to be a thorn in your side. And but yes, as far as the racing before I got cut off, I did think that, again, it for the show that it was on a short track, a quarter-mile track, I got what I needed out of it. It wasn't a clown show. It didn't go too much over the top. It was fine. And, I was satisfied with it. I think you could replicate this somewhere else. You reported this week that they are thinking of, taking it elsewhere, maybe to Mexico City, Guadalajara. That seemed random to me. Maybe elsewhere, maybe not overseas. We don't know. But what I do know is that I think the stadium concept has been proven out. I think even if they overstay their welcome here 1 year too long, that this can be successful elsewhere. You can inject some life into an event for 1 or 2 years, have some fun, go somewhere else, and it is an exhibition. And the whole point is to get people talking about the season ahead. So I think it did that. I know we're jumping around, but I didn't get to weigh in before, so I like to have my.
No, I mean, the interesting thing, you talk about Ty Gibbs and he's being a thorn. Joey Logano would agree, by the way. And it seems like there's something to watch there, because they've had a couple run-ins last year, notably at Martinsville. Had a run-in tonight. They had some words in the garage. It's going to be interesting to see how that goes forward.
Yeah, wait. Let's talk about that.
Sure.
So what did you think of, we were in the USC locker room waiting for the press conferences to start, but our friends like Bob Pockerson, Zach Sterniolo, maybe Michael Massey, we're all out there. What did you listen to the Ty Gibbs Logano audio yet? And what did you think of their whole conversation?
We literally watched it together.
Oh, I didn't remember that. I thought I watched it by myself.
I literally sat next to you in the press conference and watched it on somebody's phone with you.
I don't remember this. It's been a long day. Okay, I don't know who I watched it with.
Oh my God. Yes, I watched it. I mean, it's a driver in Joey Logano who is not afraid to, he will race you how you race him. And if he feels like you did him wrong, he's going to come back at you tenfold. And we have a driver in Ty Gibbs who's young, who has been aggressive. Last year did a really good job of kind of harnessing that. And he's kind of, as you saw, the year went on a little bit, though. It was like, hey, I want to make sure people aren't taking advantage of me. And I think there's part of that. You hear that all the time from young drivers. You don't want to be taking advantage of the veterans. You got to stand up for yourself. Logano's the wrong guy, though. Just here's my tip for Ty Gibbs. I get it. I understand it. But Logano's not the guy to do that with, because, I mean, he said at the end of that clip there that it's on social media, which was basically don't mess with me. And he's right. There's a long list of guys. Logano will make your life hell, and he will pay you back tenfold. And it's fascinating to watch. And, this is maybe a blip, and who knows, and we'll see. But certainly something to watch going forward.
Yeah, but remember, first of all, Martinsville last fall, where Logano seemed to shove Ty Gibbs almost into Denny Hamlin when Denny Hamlin was trying to make the Final Four. And then you have that radio chatter that they played again during full speed where I think Hamlin says something like he's a trash human or something like that. And then in the clip tonight where you see Ty Gibbs going, I've been watching you do this my whole life or something. And then Logano's like, keep watching, buddy, or something like that. That was great. But the sad part about all this is we were getting the top five they were going to bring the top five to the press conference room, right? So Logano comes in and we do this whole media session with him, right? And we had no idea that he had gotten into it with Ty Gibbs, so we did not ask him about it. Then I looked down at my phone afterwards, and there's a text from Bob, and he's like, hey, did Logano come in? He yelled at Ty in the garage. I'm like, dang it, why didn't I not look at my phone? So nobody knows Logano's side of this necessarily, except from what we heard on the clip, but we did hear Ty Gibbs' side. He talked to some reporters afterwards, but that was a good little feud going. You had Ross Chastain, Tyler Reddick, who are buddies. They got into it at the end. Kyle Larson said that after Bubba Wallace got into him 3 times, he wrecked Bubba Wallace on purpose at the end, or spun him out at least. So although he said he was just trying to move him, but then he accidentally spun him. But he was trying to make contact after Bubba hit him 3 times. So I do question, though, because I asked Kyle Busch and the other guys about this. Like, what is the point of using up some of your cachet or your favors or your goodwill in an exhibition race and get people mad at you because you just talked about Ty Gibbs messing with the wrong guy? Well, that there were some hurt feelings there, right? So like that's going to carry over. I would not have advised that in the Clash just in general because look, I know people see red very quickly and it's a short track, but for a points race position, okay, but like when you're battling for not the win, which is all that matters in this race, and you're going to get people mad at you, I don't know.
I mean, you pick and choose your spots, and this probably wouldn't be the spot I would pick and choose. But you know what, though? That's why we love short tracks. That's why we always say more short tracks. Despite the package maybe not being what we want it to, short tracks create this kind of drama. They create these kind of storylines, and this is why getting the short track package right is so imperative for NASCAR going forward.
I know. I miss when we could watch short track races all the time and just be like, more short tracks. And it was just an automatic that you were going to see this kind of action and rivalries. So I guess I agree with you when you're talking about how good the racing was in that aspect because, yes, that is part of good racing on short tracks, right? To have that kind of contact and those tempers and moving people out of the way. By the way, unrelated to this, part of the short track concerns with the next-gen car were injuries, right? Like head injuries, being hit at slow speeds, especially when it came out. There was all this talk about it last year even. And I asked Kyle Larson about it tonight. Like, there was all these hits in the corner tonight, right? Like, did it feel different? Did it feel better? And he said he didn't even think about it. And he said it still hurts, but, like, it did feel softer and it did feel like they could take the hits more. So I think that's progress, right? Like, that is something that NASCAR and everybody have worked on to try to reduce that. We know that this car can stand up to huge impacts like the Ryan Preece crash, but the smaller impacts have still been in question. But it was good to hear, I think, that, being hit on the straightaway at the Clash at a lower speed is not going to cause a concussion, hopefully. So that was just another note. Go ahead. Oh, that was it?
No, I'm saying you're right. I hit the mute button. I'm trying to limit the echo over. I'm a radio professional, utilizing this to my skill set. The other thing about this, it's really easy because this is an exhibition race to say, it doesn't matter who wins. There's no real takeaways. I do think there's a takeaway from this. And we've talked about this a little bit this week. 2 years ago, Joey Logano wins the Clash, goes on to win the championship. Last year, Martin Truex Jr. wins the Clash, goes on to win the regular season title. So maybe it's a coincidence, maybe it's not, but I do think there's something to pull from that. Asked Denny Hamlin that post-race, and he said, there are some similarities to this track to some other tracks on the schedule. Martinsville he mentioned specifically. And so if you're taking from this, I think it's the fact that Denny Hamlin and the 11 team are going to be a threat. They're going to be in every race this year. They're going to be a title contender. Now, that's not a surprise. I think we all predicted that to happen, but this is certainly a good indicator that the 11 team is still, answering the bell. Denny Hamlin may be, he's the oldest? Truex is the oldest driver on the grid, and I think Hamlin's like 1 year younger than him. Despite
we're all me, Truex, and Hamlin, we're all 1980 kids. Truex is like April 1980. Hamlin is November 1980, so it's like 6 months apart.
Okay, I mean, so Hamlin's, one of the, if not the oldest guy on the grid, and we know, age can impact. It doesn't seem to be slowing down, and so something to watch. Is like this is a indicator that Denny Hamlin's going to be a contender again in 2024, just like he has been really since Gabehart has come on and every year.
Well, you said that we all predicted that he would be a championship contender. I did not predict that because I said on Actions Detrimental this week that something always happens to Denny. Something always falls out of the sky.
There's a difference between winning the championship and being a contender, though. Like,
that's true.
I mean, there's a big. He is. Well, he was a contender last year and he fell in round 8. I mean, like he is going to win races. He's good. I think he has a really good shot of winning the regular season championship. I actually will say, and I kind of wrote about this on The Athletic recently. Like, I think they need to execute better during the regular season and get win more than they do, and do a better job at getting those bonus points. Because when inevitably, like you said, that piano falls on your head in the playoffs, at least you have a little bit more of a safety net. And so I think they're going to be a contender. It's whether they can get over that hump and actually get the championship.
Well, he led the early part of the race, and you're like, oh wow, he got the pole, he was sailing off, and then he kind of faded. And, I think the radio chatter was that, he lost his turn, and he was having trouble getting into the corners. But I thought, maybe that surgically repaired shoulder that he had said he wasn't close to 100%. I thought, well, maybe the weariness of it, that was affecting him being able to turn the corner. But he said after the race, it didn't bother him at all during the race. The adrenaline took over. He said it was a little sore, but that didn't seem to be a factor. And obviously he got up there toward the end. What I was fascinated with was watching it up here in the press box. We're looking almost, it feels like we're looking straight down on the track, right? Like almost a bird's eye view. And all, getting in the corners every time toward the end of the race, he was smoking the tires. And it was like, dude, there's no way he's going to be able to stay in front of these guys at this point. And, he even with the late restart, Kyle Busch lining up behind him, Kyle Busch said afterwards, that, I said, did you want to knock Denny out of the way? And he said, of course I do. It's Denny. But, ultimately that didn't happen. And Denny said, I thought this was really interesting, that out of all the people that he would have wanted to line up behind him, he felt the best about Kyle lining up behind him because Kyle has always raced him so cleanly and fairly that he wasn't worried because of that reason. But Denny's explanation was with the tire thing, once you flat spot a tire, a little bit getting into the corner, that flat spot's there and it's going to do it every time. So he just committed to essentially smoking the tires every time because the only way to not do that, he said, was to back up the corner. And if you back up the corner, then you are going to get run over. So he just said, oh, I'm going to keep sailing it in there and just hope it works. And it was able to work because the people behind him were racing so hard that it allowed him to get away, and he was ultimately able to win the race. So, what does it mean? It's easy to look at it and say there is a correlation. I don't know. I just think it does happen to be somebody that is going to be a contender. And I think it has to do a lot with, it's a short track, so you're not going to see fluke people, rise up out of nowhere and win this race. It's not like a Daytona, right? So even though it's not a traditional short track, it's still a test of strength that way. So no surprise, certainly, that Denny wins it. But I will say it does, for him to come out and win this race the week after the Netflix series has come out, where he was sort of the main character of this, for new fans who maybe have been pulled in by that series, it goes right with the narrative, right? Like, that is in some ways a positive storyline for NASCAR to continue to sell, because it's like, oh yeah, one of the guys that was on this show just won, and I'm actually most familiar with him. And after the show, right, like for people that don't know NASCAR, it actually is quite a nice boost for NASCAR storyline-wise, again, to go into the next 2 weeks in Daytona to say, hey, that guy, he won. Now he's going to Daytona 500 where he's a 3-time Daytona 500 champ. Okay, maybe this starts to go together a little bit in a narrative way.
Really, really good point by you. Like, excellent point. And I agree. And it's smart. And not only is he continued the narrative, and now more people that are watching the show are going to continue like, hey, I know this guy, I'm invested in him. He's also willing to play the bad guy. Like, you heard it tonight after he wins the race. Like, he did the I just beat your favorite driver thing. Like, he's willing to play that role. He's willing to talk the talk, and then he walks the walk. And there's not a lot of guys out there in this sport who are willing to call out people, who are willing to speak their mind, who are willing to wear the black hat. He's willing to. This sport is better when there are villains and when the fans are cheering against somebody. Denny doesn't care. He embraces it. He has embraced it. And he's coming off a starring role in a Netflix series. Like, this is good. This is a really positive thing for NASCAR, because we talk a lot about young drivers, whether it's Bubba or Blaney or Chase, and, if they can win or they can do this, they, can help NASCAR. Well, maybe it's one of the old guys. Maybe it's the veteran who's been around, who's got personality, is willing to be himself, and he's got the accolades to back it up.
A couple more notes we definitely need to touch on here, because Kyle Busch, I don't know how, but all 3 of the clashes here on this quarter-mile track, he gets on the podium all 3 times.
Really good driver. I mean, that helps.
You were trying to unmute your mic just for the second, just so you could say, Kyle Busch, really good driver. Thank you for this insight.
Well, I mean, you make it sound like it's a miracle. Like, if I don't know, he's really, really good. Like, I mean, I'm sorry. Like, this is what he does. Logano's, finished, 4th and 1st here as well, and had some good runs. Like, I don't know. Like, it's not like a miracle that he did well here.
I mean, this is a tough track. We've seen people completely miss the show. We've seen people, rise up. It's tough to get a handle on, especially, you're rolling right off the truck and you kind of have what you have. I mean, you look at Ryan Blaney tonight, another example of this, right? Like, he was so bad in practice qualifying that, he had to use his provisional, and then he starts at the back of the field, and on this short track where you're like, I don't know, this we're not going to see a ton of passing perhaps, he drives all the way up to a podium spot. Why are you smiling?
Pump the brakes here. Do you remember what I said about, like, lap 62?
No.
I said, man, Blaney's really doing a good job. He's got a fast race car. If he can kind of work, he's like, you did the scoffing thing.
I did not say that.
Yes, you did.
You
can't even remember a conversation that we happened post race between us. Now you're objecting about something that happened on lap 62.
See, because I don't remember the post race conversation, now you're just going to make up whatever I said.
It's called precedent, Jeff.
Say,
precedent.
Of course you don't remember this.
Called precedent. You rob a bank once, you're a bank robber. So lap 60, I'm like, man, Blaney's like, he's like passing race cars, and he's catching guys really, really fast, and he's getting by them fast. And like, because he started in the back, it was hard, but it's like, man, he's got a fast race car. He's like 17th. Yeah, but he's got a fast race car, and then he comes up and he pulls well. It's exactly what you said.
I remember this now, because you said.
So you just admitted I was right. Thank you.
I remember this moment. This was not late in the race when he was moving up. You said,
it was like lap 62.
I look up at the scoring monitor. I said, he's 18th. He started 23rd. That was.
You just said that. I literally just recapped that. You're agreeing with everything I just said.
I hate this podcast. Anyway, good thing we just signed up to be committed to this for a long time on Dirty Mo. Great. So anyway, in addition to that, you have Logano finishing 4th. As you mentioned, he won the inaugural one. Kyle Larson, I believe he finished top 5 at all of these.
Also a good driver.
Okay, thank you for your insight. We have Alex Bowman, who we were a little bit worried about in practice, and then he kind of jumped up. He finished 6th. Really nice run for him. Chase Briscoe, who I believe got the last spot after he had finished 1st in his practice group, but then that practice group tumbled down the charts. He got the last spot, last non-provisional spot. He finished 7th, so that was a nice run for him.
Also a good driver.
Oh boy, is everybody a good driver?
I'm not saying that because I'm not ready to piss people off yet.
Oh, okay. So somebody's not a good driver, but you're not going to say who it is. Okay. Keselowski, again, who had never made the Clash in the previous 2, he finished 8th. Truex, who won last year, 9th, and Byron 10th. So Justin Haley also needs a shout out because he was having a nice run before he had some sort of mechanical issue. And obviously we talked about Ty Gibbs. Unfortunate 18th is not going to reflect how strong he was. But What else from this race? I feel like it's been such a whirlwind day. I'm going to need to rely on your notes now if there's anything else, because I can't get my head straight.
No, I mean, that was everything we covered. I mean, we talked about the future of the Clash. You talked about it. I wrote about it this week, reported a little bit about it. It's going to be interesting to see what the decision is. It feels like the consensus is that it's unlikely, very unlikely that the NASCAR is going to come back here, and they're evaluating their next move and where that's going to be. I think this race for a long time, it was just kind of lumped into speed weeks. It was kind of part of it, and sometimes you didn't think about it much. And I think what this race has done and really become over the last 3 years is become its own entity, and where you can take it and go somewhere where you want to enter the market and maybe get a foothold a little bit, whether that's Mexico, whether that's another warm weather locale, wherever that may be. I think this is going to be a race that you're going to start to see really go to some unique places. I mean, that's what NASCAR wants to do, and how they execute that going forward is going to be something to watch.
Well, Jordan, it is now time for the Was It a Good Race poll. Jordan, he has been showing everybody who he comes into contact with my Daytona 500 outfit, which I have not seen yet. I just watch people's facial reactions. Some people are aghast. Some people cringe. Other people go, it's not as bad as I thought. You're not going to look like a total clown. That's all I really know. I understand there's going to be some sort of tight pants involved from people's comments. Jordan, I overheard him talking today in the garage about how I'm going to be having some sort of Scottish hat.
No, not Scottish hat, just a little driving hat. Also, again, just want to reiterate, buy roller quarters.
Okay. So that's not going to happen again. Whatever Daytona 500 outfit I'm going to be wearing this year will not happen again, because I'm going to destroy this contest this year. I'm going to have no mercy. I'm going to run away with this thing. I'm going to win the regular season title, get my bonus point, and then crush the playoffs. I will not be wearing a Jordan selected outfit 2 years in a row. Jordan will be wearing the finest Target apparel next year. So this is where my journey to the championship begins. I'm going to close it out this year. I will not have a piano falling on me like Denny has in the playoffs. I'm going to have, from start to finish, a dominating season. So I do not have to go first. Jordan, you are the defending champion. You have to start first by, you have to guess first and give us your reasoning.
Well, as a defending champ, I just want everybody to send a reminder to everybody, paraphrasing Denny Hamlin, I beat your favorite podcaster last year in this poll, so you're welcome.
Go, yeah. Hold for the applause. That was so funny.
Thank you. You laughed. I got to laugh. That's good. I sell it, Gaff. You got to sell it. Professional over here. I'll say 82.
82.
Yeah.
Why?
It was good racing. Entertaining racing. Yeah, we got the caution at the end. Gibbs didn't run away. It didn't turn into the clown show. It didn't turn into bumper cars. Competitiveness. It was what you'd want to see out of this. I'll go 82.
I'm going 81.9. I'm going to show no mercy. I do not care if people think that's cheap. This is somebody who cheated on the poll last year to make me dress in this outfit, so I don't care that I'm going to be cheap-shotting it at all. I do not care. And for all of those, many people have suggested this year that we hide our guesses and then we write them down first, and that's the fair way to do it. No, I don't care, because I'm going to be Price is writing this into oblivion to make sure I don't lose again. So I'm going 81.9, and my reasoning is this. I think it's going to be, was the racing worth getting in the 80s? I think it was, but you're going to have people discounting the race for several reasons. Number one, they do not like this. There's a lot of people who say, thank goodness this Coliseum race is done. I hated this thing. This was never, screw this race, right? You got a lot of people just hated this race no matter what. Like they did not want to be here. They did not want to see it in LA. So that's number one. Number two, the moving it up an entire day. You're going to have people that are just angry about it, even though I think people thought it was in general the right decision.
Well, and again, I'm not using social media as like the barometer, because you got to be careful that I honestly did not see maybe I was wrong. I mean, I didn't see any backlash about this. Like, I didn't see any. Again, a lot of people fans are very quick to criticize NASCAR. I didn't see any blowback on this.
No, I think it was largely positive. They largely agreed, but there's enough people for sure that were mad. And so I think that will affect the voting. I think it'll be in the high 70s for that reason. I could be wrong, but I don't think people are going to be like, this was so awesome, I'm going to give this, a 90s or a mid 80s. I just don't see it. So, and I don't know, by the way, we're sitting here about 10 minutes ago. We are now at 9, a little after 9 local time on Saturday night, and the rain is here. The rain has started falling, and I'm not sure when it's going to stop, but it is falling quite a bit here. So they got this thing in. They got the NASCAR Mexico race in, mission accomplished, but I don't know when the next time we're going to see racing in Southern California is. I haven't mentioned this on social media yet because I didn't want to, I just wanted to wait maybe until I had written a story about it, but I'll at least mention it on the podcast so you can look for it on The Athletic this week. I went to Fontana yesterday. That was, I know you were, as we've talked about on the podcast, you were not emotional about Fontana. You don't understand why it tugs at my heartstrings. I went to Fontana yesterday, went in the infield. I saw the demolition. That was that was something. That was powerful. I know that I can see you smiling.
It was the video you showed me was remarkable and definitely eye-catching. Everybody's got their own connections to think. Hey, listen, I visited a firehouse from a 70s TV show today, so I really can't. I have no high ground to stand on whatsoever.
All right. Well, I'm planning to write about the experience this week on The Athletic. And I will post some of the pictures that I took. So please check that out. But yeah, I mean, that track, even if they do the short track there, which I don't know, people are skeptical. It maybe seems 50-50-ish to me. I don't know. But Dave Allen, I guess he's the NASCAR West president now or something. It's a different title than the Auto Club Speedway president. He's told the LA Times this week, it's whatever they do there, it's definitely not going to be ready for at least next year. So we're talking at a minimum 2026. If the Clash doesn't come back here, which it doesn't seem like it's going to at this point, you are suddenly leaving Southern California, leaving a hole there, which is the biggest media market that NASCAR currently goes to because they don't go to the New York media market. So, I don't know when we'll be back here talking about another race in Southern California. I hope it's a short track in Fontana, and I hope it's soon, but if it is, it's going to be a while. So, I hope people appreciated the racing while it was here. I don't know what they'll do, but it's going to be, to me, it's going to be a big loss. But
I mean, you need to be in this market, and NASCAR knows you need to be in this market. The teams want to be in the market. The question is, how do you make it work? If you're not going to race at the Coliseum and Fontana's off the table, it feels like you got to do something. And maybe it's a thing, you go away from the Coliseum for a year or two, and then you come back here and you revisit it, and you just come back here enough. But it is a loss. I mean, it certainly is. There has to be an avenue to have a permanent race here. You just hope the Fontana short track comes to fruition, because that would then solve all of the problems, right? I mean, you get your Southern California race in Southern California, you're getting another short track, which probably will be an entertaining race. It sets up then a warm weather race for the championship. You can do all sorts of things with that, and the possibilities that really open up. So we'll see. It's going to be interesting to see how this unfolds. I mean, this is going to be a couple years project, probably at least, because I can't imagine Fontana is going to be completed anytime soon.
I didn't even hear anything you just said, because I wish everybody listening could be watching this on the video right now. Jordan, we're in the same room, and Jordan just like turned to me and is talking to me. So it's like a side profile of his face. Jordan, we're doing a video. This is going to be clipped for social media. So can you please talk into the camera? By the way, I do need to say this. I am so grateful to the Dirty Mo people. This has been a phenomenal week. of podcast social clips. I mean, you guys who follow us on social, whether it's on X or Instagram, you're seeing all these clips. I don't have anything to do with them. Like the Dirty Mo social team is putting them out. And I also want to thank Colby, who is back on East Coast time, I believe, who has stayed up late for this to make sure this video chat is running. So we suddenly have like people who are very supporting us. We're so appreciative to that of that. And yeah, I mean, we have some audio and video issues a little bit, but we will sort those out. We will get those fixed. So thank you for your patience. And we will be back with you. I don't know if we'll be back with you next week, but because that's Super Bowl Sunday, then are we going to be back with them next week? What are we doing?
I think we record episode every week from here on out.
Oh, okay. Well, we got to come up with something to talk about next week. I guess the season's starting. That's what I hear anyway. And then after that, we will be back with you, of course, at the Daytona 500. So everybody, thanks as always for listening to the Teardown. We will talk to you next time, whenever that is. See everybody.